So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this UNEG session on experiences using NVIVO for evaluations and the functionality NCapture for social media, jointly organized by the UNDP and EFAD evaluation offices. My name's Heather Bryant, and I'm an evaluation advisor at the UNDP Independent Evaluation Office, and it's my pleasure to moderate this session today. I'd like to start by introducing our co-organizer, Joanna Pennertz, Lead Evaluation Officer at the Independent Office of Evaluation at EFAD. Good afternoon, Joanna. Welcome to the session.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good to have you here with us. I would also like to thank the UNEG EPE team, Claudia, Chandi, Katinka, Bo, Thomas, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody, for giving us this opportunity to organize this session, even though this isn't an actual working group organizing this session today. We know that at the last EPE, there was an in-person training on NVIVO. In the hour and a half that we have here today, we do not pretend to be offering training. Rather, in the spirit of the evaluation practice exchange, we have two offices here who have agreed to share their experiences using NVIVO based on a lot of learning by doing. We nevertheless hope that you'll learn something from this session, that you'll have new insights into how NVIVO can be useful in evaluations, maybe new knowledge about certain functionalities of the software, and also what are some of the limitations and the challenges that we face in using this tool. So I'd like to introduce today's presenters. We have Eduardo Gomez Rivero from the UNDP Independent Evaluation Office. Good morning, Eduardo. And we have Nouri Niazi and Valentina DiMarco from EFAD. So good afternoon and welcome to Nouri and Valentina. And thanks so much for joining us here today. So before we move to the presentations, we'd like to just do a quick stock taking. We sent out a link to a survey with the invitation to the session. And we just wanted to get a sense of where we were at in terms of UNEG members using NVIVO. Let me see, can we get rid of the polling thing there? Okay, I now can control the screen. Sorry, we're working on the technology here. Oops. Okay, the first question was whether your office has NVIVO or any other qualitative analysis software available. And about 60% of the respondents answered that they do. By the way, this is the data as of, I think, Tuesday evening or Wednesday. There may have been a few more answers to the poll in between times, and we'll put updated results into the brief at the after we do the session. Next question was about conducting evaluations. Who is actually using the software? 43% of our respondents said they're the ones using it. Another 23% said it's actually consultants who are doing most of the analysis. And then about a third of the respondents said that neither are actually using it. In terms of using NVIVO personally, about 65% of our respondents said yes. And I think we're at about 58 or something today. So a little more than half have experience, which is great. In terms of what types of products offices have been using NVIVO for, we see that it's more often for strategic or corporate level evaluations, a little bit less in terms of project evaluations, even less for country level evaluations. How often is NVIVO used? There it was about half said usually, the other half said rarely, and only one person said always. With respect to training on NVIVO, most of our colleagues have either benefited from a one-off workshop or webinar provided by their office and or learning by doing. In terms of recommending the use of NVIVO to other offices, most recommended, Some say only for particular types of evaluations, and it looks like 2 people have said they wouldn't recommend it because it's not cost effective. And it would be interesting if those people are here today, if they perhaps share their views or experiences. The last question to our survey respondents was, would you be interested in participating in a UNEG working group related to innovation and the use of technological solutions for evaluation? And 75% said yes, and only a quarter said no. But this is great. It looks like we have people interested in taking this forward. And we hope with the session that even more of you will say yes. So to take this forward, Eduardo is going to share with us how UNDP has been using NVIVO for some of our evaluation products. Over to you, Eduardo.
Thank you, Heather. Hello, everyone. Thank you, all of you, for your time here today. I hope you can hear me well. Thomas, can you move to the next slide, please?
Or do you want me to do it?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, in this presentation, I would like to share with you some of the experience of using NVIVO in evaluation at the Independent Evaluation Office of UNDP. But first of all, before starting, I would like to give you a very brief overview of NVIVO, especially for those of you that have said that are not familiar with the tool so far. NVIVO is what is called a computer-assisted qualitative data analysis software for exploring, analyzing, and visualizing qualitative data. It is designed to help organize, analyze, and find insights in unstructured or qualitative data, like interviews, open-ended survey responses, reports, or web content. It's not the only one of its kind. There is similar software such as Atlas TI or the DUS, but it's one of the better known and most widely used. It indeed has a reputation for complexity and challenge. However, the latest versions are much more user-friendly than the old ones. So let's have a quick overview of what it is, what you do when you use NVIVO. So we understand qualitative research in NVIVO as part of an iterative process with different rounds of analysis and feedback among the team members. In that sense, you can see summarized here key elements of the process and how they look like in the NVIVO interface. The tool helps us store and organize data. It starts by allowing us to upload a large quantity of data sources and a different type of files and formats. You can create cases in NVIVO. They represent the unit of analysis in your research study. For example, the different group of beneficiaries or other type of element of unit of analysis that you are considering. You can group and add additional layers of information related to those units of analysis in your project. This can be done using case classifications. Having all your data imported and classified allow us to start exploring it via multiple queries. It's possible to query content based on attributes or using word frequency query to see what's common terms are being used in the reports. It's also possible to generate matrix coding query that is quite useful to compare the different set of elements that has already been coded. And talking about that, what is coding in NVIVO, which is kind of the key element? Coding can be described as capturing relevant information from the data and putting it into containers called codes. These containers can be grouped into larger ones as a way to align with your research questions. Coding is the key element of the whole process. To finalize the process and be able to present and share your findings, NVIVO has different elements such as predefined reports and other type of visualizations such as maps, charts, or cluster trees, to mention a few. So when we look at IEO's portfolio, we can see that not all the products have had the same level of use of NVIVO. Currently, IEO has used NVIVO occasionally for independent country program evaluation, what we call ICPEs, in which we assess UNDP contribution to development at the country level. Many lead evaluators have confirmed that they use it more frequently for thematic evaluations. This type of evaluation assesses UNDP performance and result at the global and regional level. They are larger in scope, time, and budget than the country program evaluations. As we will see, this has important implications when we want to integrate the use of NVIVO from a project management perspective. More recently, since the middle of this year, IO has started to produce the reflection series, a new product in which IO is synthesizing evaluation information into useful lessons. The papers follow a protocol of rapid evidence assessment, bringing together information and knowledge from a range of sources to inform debates and policy decisions on specific issues. The use of NVIVO here is ongoing, but it looks very promising for the type of methodological approach that we are using. Sorry. So, in exploring some of the strengths and challenges found when conducting country program evaluations, we can highlight that one of the strengths of NVIVO is that it allows collecting multiple types of data produced at the country level, from reports in Word or PDF format to datasets and multimedia, audio, video, picture, everything can go in. It can actually create proxy documents to represent external reference that cannot be imported digitally into the tool. The tool has multiple ways to explore the data and identify things, from using keyword search to the auto-coding of things. Elements such as the coding, the cases, the memos helps to track easily the data collected in support of our findings. And the good thing is that all this qualitative analysis is kept into one single project repository, rather than into multiple folders or files. However, the tool also has some challenges. We face the reality that a large number of consultants, most of them non-familiar with NVIVO, are involved in ICPs along the year, and there is limited number of licenses. Not only that, there is also limited time, which is the main constraint. Consultants have a limited number of days of contract, and as a result, limited time for coding in case they are familiar with the tool. Besides, some lead evaluators might not see a strong cost-benefit relation. In most cases, they usually have their personal preferences in terms of how to conduct this review and the evaluation processes. But, however, it is becoming more widely used, especially by our research team. Let me show you a recent quick example. NVIVO was used to expedite the desk review of the health outcome in one of our latest country program evaluations. NVIVO facilitated the review of the ROAS, which are the results-oriented annual reports, which in nature, they are long PDF with a small font and very difficult format to read. The ROAS are organized by outcomes and output as they answer a uniform question on result, gender equality, etc. So by a quick coding using country programs output as cases, the unit of analysis that we were mentioning before, and the thematic question as code, it was easy to use a framework matrix, organize the information into a simple table, analyze it, export it to Excel, and share it among the team members as a critical input to assess the performance at the country office. In the case of thematic evaluations, in which the use of NVIVO has been more frequently in our office, and as all of you, the responder of the survey has mentioned as well, the use of the tool has been recognized useful and necessary by multiple lead evaluators interviewed. Thematic evaluation work with hypotheses that need to be tested. NVIVO help us doing it by organizing and processing a large quantity of data. NVIVO also enables cross-country and cross-time analysis and comparison by using countries as cases and by tagging your data by relevant elements of analysis. It allows you to do cross-tabulation by country or theme. Also, the coding in NVIVO can support other methodological approaches within the evaluation, such as QCAs, or qualitative comparative analysis. On the challenges, however, here again, similar to what we have found at the country program level, many evaluators has told us that difficulty to find external consultants with NVIVO knowledge. As an example, only 1 out of 6 consultants in our most recent evaluation knew NVIVO. Key lesson learned is the importance of the team to agree on a joint and reliable research approach and coding framework in advance of using NVIVO for coding. Definition of each code is essential to have a common understanding. It is also important to have flexibility to adapt and change the coding structure as we move forward with the analysis. And new inputs are taken into consideration. This is what we have referred at the beginning as part of the iterative process. All these require good project management skills to avoid inefficiency. Also, the team should be aware that when exporting the data to non-NVIVO users, it does not take advantage of the full NVIVO functionality. It's not that user-friendly in that sense. So some takeaways from our experience is that, first of all, it is critical to start ahead and allocate proper time for NVIVO coding, especially when managing a large team in which the coding task will not be done directly by the evaluators. Researchers need proper time to code before starting to share content and finding to evaluators. The research team should be ready for intense feedback after that and a new set of requests from evaluators. It's important to be aware of possible selection bias due to the different availability of evaluations. NVIVO can help you identify gaps among the source imported to the project. It's possible to optimize the coding time by using a specific terms in queries versus general themes or ideas. For example, exploring response to conflict-affected countries, the use of terms such as 3x6 or early recovery versus more time-consuming elements to code, such as what is a long-term approach that can be expressed in multiple ways in the reports. In the same evaluation, we saw the utility of using the coding matrix. You can see in the image that actually you can color and be more user-friendly to report the number of references identified to each theme or topic and how those are connected to other elements of analysis. This way we can obtain quick feedback from consultants on what type of information they consider more relevant. Finally, I would like to share our experience with the collaborative function of NVIVO. It can indeed help to speed up the coding process. It allows several users to work on the same project. The evaluation also can take advantage of the work in different time zones while working from home, which is quite useful these days, sadly. However, it's not a real-time cloud tool. At some point, it involves sharing heavy files and it can create connectivity issues. If we go a bit deeper into the teamwork aspect of the tool, we have learned that it's important to appoint a team leader who will keep on track the work done and make final coding decisions that usually always have to be done. Have regular team meetings to discuss interpretation and to address issues and assign new tasks. We aim for a clear code structure, and the use of descriptions to make the purpose of each code clear to all the team members is a key aspect. Every collaborator should keep a memo to record their progress. However, this is also easy to track within the tool. NVIVO has internal tools such as coding stripes or a coding comparison query. In the image, you can see the type of result that it presents that can help track and ensure a consistent approach and quality assurance of the coding. An easy tip here is to facilitate understanding among the team members when managing and referring to source and files is to define before coding a standard protocol of naming and identifying each of the sources that are going to be imported in NVIVO. All this experience with NVIVO at our office, it is part of a larger, It's part of a larger strategic perspective. Wrapping up this presentation, I would like to, quickly map how the use of NVIVO in the evaluation office is framed within a broader strategic perspective, in which the main goal is to leverage the use of technology to conduct better evaluations. The idea is to be able to integrate multiple and new data sources into our evaluations. This could be happening thanks to the improvement of our existing platforms, such as the Evaluation Resource Center that you may know, or by using new streams of data, such as the one from Geographic Information System or social media, as we are going to present later. The use of technology to facilitate research and analysis, not only with NVIVO, we also are considering different types of artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions that are being taken into consideration by the office. All this with the clear support to enhance communication via multiple channels as a way to reinforce the evaluation functions and to have a better office knowledge management. This closes my presentation here. Thank you. Over to you, Heather.
Thank you so much, Eduardo, for this interesting presentation. What I really appreciated is that you linked the tool to the teams using it and indicate that really a tool can only be as good as the teamwork that's there using it, and the importance of integrating use of NVIVO from the outset of an evaluation, the importance of getting the coding right, as well as allotting enough time for the processes. And so with that, let's pass directly on to Valentina and Nuri from IFAD, who will tell us about how IFAD has been using NVIVO for a number of different products in their office. And don't forget, you can be posting questions in the chat during the presentation. It'll help us get started with the Q&A following Nuri and Valentina's presentation. Just let us know for whom your question is addressed. Over to you, Nuri. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather. I'm just trying to move the slides. It doesn't seem to work for me. If somebody else maybe could take care of that, I don't seem to be able to do it.
Please try again.
If that was me, it worked. Let me try. No, yeah, I don't think I have control. So if somebody, Thomas, you could do that, I'd be grateful. My name is Nuri Niazi, and together with my colleague Valentina Di Marco, we will share some of the experience the Independent Office of Evaluation at IFAD has been making in the use of NVIVO. In terms of the structure of our presentation, I'll start with a bit of the rationale for the adoption by our office of NVIVO, outline how we are using it, what our overall experience has been, as well as specifically some positive features or aspects that we have found. Valentina will then point to some of the drawbacks or pitfalls in using NVIVO, and also then go into a bit more detail regarding the specific utility of using NVIVO, in particular evaluation products. Next slide, please. I still can't move them. Thank you. All right. By way of introduction, IOE has been using NVIVO since 2016 on a variety of evaluation products in response to a stakeholder demand for synthetic and complex evaluation products that entail review of many documents in a systematic manner. So the context was the aim of developing rigorous comparative methods for synthesis and annual reporting. And the expectation was that NVIVO would allow for increased work efficiency and time savings. Next slide, please. Thank you. So far, we've been using NVIVO for four types of evaluation products. Firstly, for project completion report validations and project performance evaluations, we upload source documents, we code criteria, topics of interest across all documents. This then allows us to track the evolution of assessments all in one single view. For syntheses, NVIVO allows us to do text searches across all our source documents and then categorize them into nodes for qualitative analyses. For corporate level evaluations, again, any glut of documents really can be uploaded into a single file. And for example, related to policies and strategies, they can be categorized by time and topic. And as with the synthesis, text searches allow for time efficiency in referencing and reviewing. Next slide, please. To sum up our overall experience, the interface is easy and intuitive. Coding is an easy process, but it is time consuming. NVIVO files act as a repository of information sources and data. It supports data mining and aggregation. It allows layered analyses. Different evaluators can add notes and observations. Observations can be quantified. NVIVO projects constitute almost some sort of institutional memory. And lastly, synthetic analysis still requires human analytical faculties that need to be done outside of NVIVO. Next slide, please. I'll briefly outline some of the positive features or experiences we've had using NVIVO. It has great functionality as a database or data repository that can store any number of source documents as well as coded text extracted from these source documents in one single place. So source documents could, for instance, be project documents, evaluation reports, other documents. This makes it easy to access NVIVO projects, as they are called. So files in NVIVO are called projects, and they're easily shareable with other colleagues. So it's a matter of exchanging a single file as opposed to multiple folders and files, for example. NVIVO allows for, no, this is I'm still on the previous slide. Yeah, second point. So NVIVO allows for finger-click collation of coded text on a particular topic across all my source documents. And such topics are called nodes in NVIVO. And they could be, for instance, your evaluation criteria. And so with a finger click, a single finger click, you can get NVIVO to bring up all coded texts, for example, for impact. This information that I previously extracted for all the source documents, for example, evaluation reports. Thirdly, NVIVO has a great feature, which is instantaneous text searches across all source documents. So not only can you search across however many documents you want, but so you can do text searches on multiple words at the same time. For example, on all reference that I have on multiple topics, multiple words or groups of words, such as user groups, beneficiary associations, maintenance committees. This is a recent example I used myself. You can do this in multiple languages at the same time, for example, English and French. And this saves a lot of time compared to doing single word searches manually for each single document separately in Acrobat Reader or Word. And lastly, now this is getting a little bit more complicated. Source documents can be classified. This means other data can be associated with these source documents. For example, from an Excel table, such as evaluation ratings, for instance. And this then allows me to interrogate nodes for particular categories. For example, I want NVIVO to show me what evaluation reports rated highly for effectiveness, say about relevance, for example. in terms of the sections that I previously extracted. And with that, I'll hand over to Valentina now for the second part of the presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Nuri. I'm just gonna have a few more slides on some of the negative features of NVIVO, and then how we use NVIVO in our IOE product. So we agree with what Eduardo explained about some of the challenges in NVIVO, and here I put together just 4 that we think are the main 4 challenges have been for us in IOE. So coded information can be more time consuming than just copying and passing into Excel or Word. Visually, from a visual standpoint, the data can be easier to digest in Excel than the actual text format downloaded from NVIVO. NVIVO is not a shortcut for synthesis analysis of coded data. And it also can limit the shareability of the information if someone else doesn't use NVIVO as well. So this is an example of how we use NVIVO for our project completion report and project performance evaluation, which are a single project evaluation that we do in IOE. Some of the strengths are about coding, which we already discussed. So the possibility to create nodes following the IOE criteria structure in the report. And NVIVO also reduces the time needed to go back to documents for deep analysis. For example, after a peer review or some management response, we are able to actually go back to the main source and look at the broader context. A weakness is the way the tables are extracted. So they're not really too user-friendly sometimes. So it's probably easier to go back to the coded source. In terms of opportunity, the coded text and the NVIVO analysis can actually feed into other evaluations. And we have an example later on that I'll show you the annual reports that we do quite often. And finally, a threat is that the coding can be biased. And we had cases like that basically we avoid looking at the wider context. So sometimes our choice of coding can be questionable. So another example is for our corporate level evaluations. The strengths are the possibility to identify categories and activities based on a predefined analytical grid. So for example, if you want to do a benchmark analysis on other IFIs or UN agencies, you can actually select chapters from all different documents in one single node and see the whole information together. Then it's useful to analysis of case studies. It allows you to go back again to the original sources for deep dive analysis, and allows you also to screen in corporate strategies and policies by topics or timeline. The weakness is that the qualitative analysis usually can be based on a small sample evaluation, so that could be not really a competitive advantage. In case of annual reports, IOE uses NVIVO for the ARRI, which is a typical example of an annual report. And we found mainly strengths in this case. We created a database, which is a data repository for all the evaluations by year. All the topics and IOE criteria, as well as specific analytical questions, are actually already stored in one single file. So every year we actually keep building up the same file, which is extremely useful. So we can actually text search words or ad hoc topics and categorize source of documents by ratings. And finally, create an NVIVO reports by creating a whole document together and then moving into Word. So this is actually probably for IOE one of the most successful story with NVIVO. Thank you, and I'll leave it to Heather now.
Great, thank you, Valentina and Nuri. That was very, very concise, very colorful, and very interesting. I like that you emphasize the importance of still needing the human faculties for synthesis after the system, but that NVIVO can really help in managing a large amount of documents and and data. With that, maybe Thomas, maybe we can stop sharing the presentation now so that we can see more of our participants as we take 10-15 minutes for a Q&A on these first two presentations. Does anybody have questions for Eduardo, Valentina, or Nuri, or even comments? I see that we have comments in the chat from Seda, who has experience with other data analysis software. I don't know if you'd like to share some of your experiences.
Thank you. I think, yeah, it's what I mentioned in the chat, that I encourage colleagues also to look at the other options, and some of them are more affordable if you have cost constraints.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Seda. Yeah, that's a very nice tip. I personally am not familiar with this Max QDA, but definitely something that I will look.
It's quite good. It's quite good, and it's compared to NVIVO often.
It's good. What we have seen from the results of the survey, and somehow we were a little bit surprised, it is that most of the people has responded, well, a majority of people has responded that their office actually has NVIVO. I guess is why one of the things why we have, most of us has arrived to NVIVO rather than to other type of software. And yes, we also, most of us also have been learning by doing so. I guess if we have learned one, we are open to learn from in another one.
Thank you.
Janine, would you like to share your experience there with Dedusa?
Actually, I attended just a training, so I haven't personally used it myself. But I've used a little bit of NVIVO because we have it in our office. So actually, what we have been using is we like what was said earlier about copy pasting, right? The documents, and then doing the analysis from there. So it's just I think I was one of the persons who answered the survey about the cost effectiveness, because just from seeing the cost of it, and again, you know, the lack of flexibility in terms of how many people can use it and who can use it, because we work a lot with consultants, and the license is tied to the actual computer. You can't even transfer the license temporarily to another person's computer. The other thing is, so far from what I've from my own limited experience, as well as these two presentations, and you know, talking to other people, it seems that the main value of NVIVO is organizing the files. So putting everything in one, you know, location, and then being able to see, let's say, text from all these different sources that you have coded, and then you see them all, like you can read them all in one document. So, but I guess because I came into this like with, you know, like NVIVO, like with expectations that we could do a lot more analysis in terms of finding patterns. And it seems that that's not one of the strengths of NVIVO. And because I know you can do like word clouds, you can do the word trees and all of those things, but it doesn't seem to be, so far from my experience, that useful. And nobody I know has mentioned using those as useful as well for analysis. So yeah, it seems that it's more of organizing large amounts of information. I like how Valentina mentioned building up a file over the years. So I think that's quite useful. Although again, looking at cost effectiveness, you know, if we pay so much for a license for just for that function, I feel that there's other simpler, more user-friendly ways that can be done. And what else was I going to say? Yeah. So the other thing, sorry about NVIVO I find is the interface is a little bit clunky. There's like so many workarounds that you have to do just to get the result that you want. So it's like how Microsoft, you know, like just built on the like previous to Windows 10, like just built on Windows. So there's so many like bugs to it that instead of just starting clean from a new interface where it's user friendly, what I found with Deduce actually, again from my limited experience, it's a lot more user friendly. It's more obvious what the functions are and what you need to do, instead of having to understand this whole new vocabulary of terms that you need like a whole like training after training just for people to become familiar with it. So that's just my own limited experience, again from a cost effectiveness point of view, in terms of the money involved, the time, and also the flexibility of who can use it. Thank you.
Many thanks, Janine. I don't know if Eduardo, Valentino, or Nuri, if you would like to react to what Janine has shared.
Yes, Janine, many thanks. No, you are actually quite right in all your comments. I haven't had experience with the DOS. I think that, well, due to the nature of the presentation, and also because we weren't quite sure, you know, how to focus or structure this presentation in order to, you know, what is the level of knowledge of people have of NVIVO, we have focused more the presentation probably in this overall strength and challenges from office perspective, rather than, you know, the individual ways in which we use it for more specific analysis. And so that's why this idea of how the information is structured and compiled into one file probably has been, you know, emphasized rather than, you know, more specific and particular ways of analyzing the information. It has a multiple way of query and a multiple way of analyzing. For example, we haven't talked about, you know, the possibilities that it offers in terms of processing surveys and interview text, which somehow we will see later a little bit when we see how the data set of Twitter it is processed in the tool. But yes, you're right. The license is quite expensive, as I've been told as well. So it is actually, I think it is quite understandable for different office to explore different options to see which one merge better with their interests.
Valentina or Nuri, would you have anything to add on that?
Yes, we agree with Eduardo. It's an expensive license. Oh, sorry, I was starting. No, I just want to add that it is true that it's an expensive license and there is a limit in the number of people that use it. So this is actually an issue also for us. And it's not a software that everybody has on their computer. So sometimes we have a selected number of people that can actually use it. And I think this is a problem at the end, if you really want to mainstream the use in in the office. Over.
Yeah, I also echo that. I think it could, if it can be streamlined within an office, that everyone has access to it and has it installed and knows how to use it. And I think the utility and could be higher, and the cost effectiveness will also go up. Regarding the fact that we or some of the offices that have been speaking today are using more of the simpler features. Yes, of course, there is this issue to consider regarding cost effectiveness for relatively sort of simple functions, but I do think they have a great value in and of themselves, like the things that have been mentioned today, like doing complex text searches across multiple documents, for example, or just having it as a repository. So these things have a great value, and I think yeah, so it's a bit of a balancing act to cost those. Regarding the patterns, yes, I mean, I think we all wish that we would get a little bit more out of NVIVO in terms of some of the synthetic work that we are doing. I've tried using word cloud myself. I think in my mind, it could be quite useful, for example, when one looks at verbatim interviews with beneficiaries or verbatim interviews generally. This could be quite useful in that context. But yeah, we ended up not using it for the specific, the review of evaluation reports, for example, or project reports that we've used in our evaluation products. Over.
Thank you. We also have a specific question from, I don't know if it's Michael or Mikael. Thanks for the presentation. Where is the document library stored? I don't know if you want to come in and elaborate on your question.
There is an NVIVO file when you do the analysis. It's .npv, and it's just a file that you can store in a common place or just share with people. So there is not really a cloud.
Yes, it is exactly. While using it individually, you can have your NVIVO file in your computer. Actually, the collaborative function also allows to create this kind of collaborative project, which also has to be based into someone's computer or on the office server. And then, you know, this is what we were saying, that this collaborative function, it is not entirely a cloud computer solution. It is more that, you know, it is the way it is, you can share the file and integrate it without, you know, having problems merging it. It is the solution that they have provided so far, which in that sense, you know, I think it can evolve to a better fully cloud computer solution.
Senia has a comment that NVIVO has an option when licenses can be transferred between users. Eduardo or Valentin Nuri, have the offices had experience with doing that? Does that help with this cost effectiveness question?
Yeah, I believe in our office we've used that. So you have a limited number of users that can use the software at any one time, but you can sort of deactivate the key for one user and transfer it to another. So that, of course, that gives you flexibility, especially when there is staff turnover, for example, that you know, somebody coming in can replace someone that's outgoing, or if there are, you know, if tasks are reassigned within an office. So definitely that basically increases the effective number of users, just not at any one time, but overall across the office and across time. Yes, definitely, that's a very useful feature.
There's a number of comments and questions relating to open source alternatives, and then questions about the confidentiality of the information and where the documentation is stored. I don't know if anybody would like to come in on this, or even from UNDP and IFAD. Are there any protocols in place in terms of how you're storing information and making sure that it remains in that confidential environment of the evaluation office?
No, not in our case, because again, it's a file that uploads documents and data in your own laptop. So there is no sharing or exposing information outside of your agency. At least for IOE. Over.
Thanks, Valentina.
Yes, no, same from our side. However, you know, I guess the confidentiality, it is, you know, the protocol are the standard one that the office has for the rest of documentation that we work with.
Okay, we have another question. Have you identified any effects on reliability from using NVIVO vis-a-vis manual coding? This is an interesting question. From, I don't know how to pronounce your name, John Ray from IOM. Nuri, Valentina, would you like to tackle that one?
Well, from my personal experience, I mean, the coding is either done manually in NVIVO, the same way you would code it outside of NVIVO in using, Word or copy pasting from a source document into Excel or Word. So that is one way of doing it. So it's basically the same procedure, just using a different software. Or there is this auto coding feature in NVIVO, for example, based on formatting. So you can have your memo in Word, where you have different topics, which could be evaluation criteria or whatnot, which have a particular type of format. And under that, you have the content, which has a different formatting. And the software then automatically recognizes which are your criteria or nodes in NVIVO, and which is the content that goes with that, which will be the coded information. So there is no, if you do the formatting correctly, then there is no room for error there, because the software will just pick it up correctly. So as long as the format is correct, the formatting, then you're safe. And I've used this quite a lot myself, and it's super useful. It saves a lot of time. It works very well.
Valentina, anything to add? No, Eduardo?
Agree.
Yes, well, I agree with Nuri, and well, this is really interesting question, this one. One of the things that I find more useful in that sense, it is the possibility of tracking what it has been coded, how hard it is versus when you do it like kind of manually or, using multiple sources and tools. The difference here is that once you want to go back to trace what was the logic and what was the coding and what were the sources behind your findings, it is really easy to identify that within NVIVO and to share and compare with, in the case that you are working with colleagues on the same project. So that's why I found more useful in terms of assuring the quality of the coding.
Great. Maybe this is a good time to take a break in the questions and move to the last presentation by Eduardo on the encapture functionality. This I think is interesting because it's a very specific data or specific set of data sources that can be analyzed in NVIVO. And then we can continue with questions either on the new presentation or come back to any questions that haven't yet been answered. Eduardo, shall I hand back over to you for the second part of the presentation?
Sorry, rookie mistake with the mute. Thank you, Heather. Yes. Hello, colleagues again. I will try to be very brief, and let's see if we have time to show a little bit of NVIVO working in real time. The objective here is to show you the specific functionality of encapture that can help us collect social media data and integrate it into our evaluation qualitative analysis. First of all, okay, yes, first of all, well, in the year 2020, rather than asking why using social media for evaluations, right, the question will be why I did not start using it before, right? So it's true that first of all, we should start knowing why we want to collect and integrate social media data in our research for evaluation. In my case, for example, from the perspective of country program evaluations, my experience has been that in many cases, while reaching the country office, either the management team or the communication teams, they explain us how they are implementing a new strategic plan, a new communication strategy, or a new resource mobilization campaign. And many times after that, I found myself having difficulties to collecting primary data different from interviews or surveys that can help me assess or triangulate the information related to those communication efforts made by the office. So I know that there are many different types of social media analytics solutions in the market. However, in most cases, those tools are not among the toolkit that I have or that the office has provided me with to conduct the evaluation. So also, I don't have the budget in most of the cases to commission an external consultancy just only on that. So in that sense, that's some of the reasons what I found useful to know that NVIVO, which is actually the tool that my office right now has, is provide the possibility of capturing social media data and integrate it within our qualitative analysis. Social media data in that sense can help us assess the relevance and the effectiveness of the communication of efforts when conducting country program evaluations. It can help us triangulate the information provided by the management of the communication section. It can help us identify inputs or findings in the communication trends that can help us assess results. You know, there are many different evaluation questions that we can start, you know, answering thanks to this information, no? Where we want to know if the communication strategy reached the beneficiaries or if the key messages are aligned with the ones of the donors, or if the regional or global level of the organization are supporting our communication efforts, what type of messages or themes are the ones gaining more attention. So to do that, and capture, the first thing we should know is that it's a free web browser extension to use with Chrome, Google's web browser. It enables us to gather content to import directly to NVIVO. Most web pages can be captured as PDF that can be read and code the same way as other type of text in PDF format. But the good thing is some social networks such as Twitter or Facebook or YouTube allow us to collect the information as data sets and the videos and pictures. So the installation process is straightforward. It shouldn't take long. You know, I include here the links to the Chrome and the Encapture extension that if any of you wanted to try later. And once installed, you will see it right on top of the web browser corner. In the case of Twitter, that is the one that we are going to see today, it is as easy as once you are in the Twitter page that you want to collect the information, you can, you know, click and select whether you want it to collect it as a data set with or without retweet. You can start editing, you know, some of the basic information that you can upload with the NVIVO file. For instance, you can actually, since the really beginning, you can actually start coding the whole data set at the time of capturing. The type of information and key data from Twitter that you will capture in, it is well, pretty much all, you know, from the username, the tweet content, the type of tweets, the time, the location. And here you will see that it actually imported the coordinates. So it is actually quite useful for geographical analysis. And well, also who has done the retweets, how many retweets, which one were the hashtag used, what people was mentioned. We are going to see all that in detail now. I think we are going on time. So once you have all that information imported in NVIVO as a data set, it's time to start exploring and adding findings into your research. The information as it is uploaded into the NVIVO is initially presented as a table. And what type of things you can do with the data sets? Well, it is quite you have a lot of options. You can, you know, from sort and filter to annotate in the text. You can also create also links on the text for consulting it afterwards. You can, for sure, you can code or query the different information in the different cells of the data set. You can auto code to organize the data. And here NVIVO has a very powerful wizard assistant that it is quite useful to auto coding. And yeah, you can organize also by attributes the different information in the data sets. And as you are seeing here, you can start exploring the data sets in a quite different type of visualizations that we will see are quite useful. You know, the dataset as a form allows you to view and explore one record at a time. The dataset as a chart or timeline presents the number of reference over a timeline. If we double click in any of the columns, we have access to the tweets during that period. From here, we can select them and start coding. A powerful tool also provided by NVIVO is the option to have a cluster analysis. There are multiple options here for visualize the information, from horizontal and vertical dendrograms to cycle graphs. The exciting thing here is the possibility of selecting the type of data that you want to visualize, whether it's Twitter users, the hashtag, or the location. You can actually also visualize the whole data set as a map, as we were telling you, identifying the geographical origin of the tweets and the retweets. It is highly intuitive way to explore the data sets. It's very user-friendly, as we are all used to maps, right? I can say the same about the Twitter sociogram. I'm not that familiar with that, but it's another way of visualizing that the NVIVO provide. And let's see all this in real time. So let me share my screen in this case. Thomas, I'm going to take Thomas, can you let me share my screen? No. Yep. So can you see now we are here into NVIVO?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. Let me, so this is here, as I was telling you, the way here you can import, and this is the encapture option to import the file. Once you import the file, you can easily, see the file as a data set in one of the, and once you click here, it is how easy and fast that you can start exploring the information. So once you click here, you start seeing the data set and all the information. Here it informs you that the number of records that has been downloaded, in this case, close to 3,000 tweets. You have all the information that it was mentioned, from the username to the type of tweet or retweet, who has done it, the type of hashtags. And, this is the way it is presented initially as a data set. From here, as were mentioned, you can go one by one if you feel like in the forms. But it is starting to be more useful if you just simply by a click, you can move all the information into a timeline chart. Here you can see, the different distribution of tweets over a timeline by quarter. And as easy as, as double clicking in one, you can start having access to the different tweets that has been, posted during that time period. So you can have that to start coding and integrate the information into your research or into your analysis. So that's by time period. Then you here actually can filter and select, for example, if you want to, identify which one are the hashtags more often as well. There is an easy way to change the perspective of the information. Right now here I'm using the example of South Sudan, the Twitter information for South Sudan, that is going to be one of the country program evaluations to be evaluated next year. And clearly the hashtag South Sudan is the one more used, but then for sure you can start seeing which other are the ones that have been using. Then, as I was mentioning, there is this powerful tool of exploring all the information in the dataset as a cluster analysis. Here, the tool very quickly organizes the information into a dendrogram. You can start exploring the different clusters in relation to the different users, and here again, by simply double clicking, you can identify which one are the core elements of the cluster, and then you can double clicking and access to the different tweets and information that has been posted by that person, by that users. So this way, allows you to keep exploring, elements in relation to different users of Twitter. Here, different visualization, as I was telling you, if you move to a cycle graph, for example, it is also quite interesting to see how it works. And for sure, it always takes a little bit of time, but here you have how it looks like. The different type of users and the different connection among them. For sure, if this is by user, but you can easily change, and you can, for example, check if there is any relation between the hashtags, and with a simple click, you can start identifying, if there is any relation between the hashtag that in the posts, in the tweets. It's processing now. Let's see. Once you have this type of information, then I hope that it's not responding now. This is one of the things why some people sometimes complain about NVIVO, but I guess it should be soon ready to be shared. The things of going live. Yeah, sorry about this. It's not responding now. Let me give it a minute. Well, now I know why actually there's exactly, that's not quite useful. See that level of interrelation between the hashtags. But let's move and let's check how, actually, well, or let's use this, if we go back to the table and we can see, one of the things that we can do in the table easily is to filter. For example, if we want to filter which tweets were retweeted, we simply, filter by the one that are not empty in this column. Filtering by that, we move from having, the whole data sets of almost 3,000 to 1,200. And then these filters that we apply to the table, they keep, they apply for the different visualizations. So now, I guess, let's see if it changed. We should see the filter applying to this visualization again. So we could, for example, explore which one are the tweets with hashtags that are more retweet. It is taking a little bit of time again. I think we are good on time, right?
We want to leave a little time for questions, Eduardo.
Yes. Okay. Now just let me show you, once this is done, let me show you how exactly how easy you can also move to see and explore the map. Well, I canceled the process and I don't know if that is worse. Yeah. Well, sorry about that. That was one of the things we were afraid that it might happen. So let's see if, there you have, we finally have it. But well, let's see the map. Here you have the map, you know, how so quite easy, you can transform your whole data set into the map to visualize what type of, where the tweets were done. In this case, remember that we have been filtering the tweet that has been retweeted. It can also, you know, help us moving and identify, for example, you know, if we want to, from the donor's perspective, or imagine which one of have been retweeted from a specific geographical location. If we want to explore what type of messages are more, you know, have more incidence in by geographic perspective. Double click and you have access to all the different tweets that were tweeted in that location. Well, that was pretty much the way this work. As I was telling you, there is also the option of the Twitter sociogram. In this case, well, it is a little bit more complex to move around, and there is also.
I think we should leave some time for questions.
Yes, yes. So let me share back the screen.
Did you have one more slide?
Yes, before we ended, I actually have one more slide. And it is related to the other type of social data that we can, yeah, exactly, which is Facebook and YouTube. And what we have found so far is that these other social media platforms, even if the process of using encapture is the same, the quality of the data sets and the possibilities of the analysis is not the same. In Facebook, you know, you got all the posts as a data set as well. Actually, it includes the pictures, which is good to know that you can code the pictures and then, you know, find them while using queries. But you don't have all the visualization. I guess it is because Facebook has all these confidentiality elements in place in order not to share that much information with external users. In YouTube, it happens something similar. You know, you can actually include the YouTube video into the analysis, but you know, you are not embedded the video or downloaded it to your computer. So there is the risk if the video is removed from YouTube, you will no longer be able to play it. So yeah, that's a quick overview of the use of encapture and the possibilities it has to collect information from social media, which so far I found is quite interesting in the case of Twitter with all this data visualization. So thanks, over to you, Heather.
Many thanks to you, Eduardo. Thomas, if we can stop the screen sharing. Thank you. That was really fascinating to see how we can use a tool that may be new for many of us, NVIVO, to use data sets that we may not always be accustomed to using in our evaluations. I think we have a couple of questions already for Eduardo, but if anybody has other questions to Nuri and Valentina, please, you still have a chance to ask them. Anupam from Jeff is asking, do you know how many tweets one can access using the plugin? How far back can one fetch the tweets? And then a second question, still from Anupam. He's been thinking a lot here during your presentation. Most of the countries and situations where we work do not have too many active Twitter users. Any thoughts on how we address this sample bias?
Yes, well, very good question both. I'm not entirely sure how far you can go and collecting tweets, but it is quite a lot, I think, in terms of years. As you know, with this the South Sudan example, for example, it went back for over 5 years of tweets, so more than almost 3,000 tweets. So. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if there is a limit on the number of that can be collect at a time. What I do know is that if you are keeping, if you want to keep collecting and update the data set, you can do that. And actually NVIVO, every time that you download new data, it merges it with the previous one that you have already collected into the tool. On the second question, which is for sure is is probably the most important thing, where this exactly what all this information in some specific countries, what is the utility and whether or not we could be biased about the users. It is true, and last week in the last EPE session as well, they were mentioned a lot of different examples of different type of citizen-produced data and other type of sources of digital information. It's true, we might be limited in the sense of understanding in some countries the use of data. However, I do think that it is better to have access to this type of information than rather, not having it. And it could be, it could be useful for this thing in order to also to see what type of message, for example, are more replicated or used by donors, which in most of the cases are more familiar with this type of platforms and use it more often than in some of the beneficiaries in the country we work.
Another question for you, Eduardo, from Rosanna. Does it work with open Twitter accounts only? It's a very specific question.
I guess so. I haven't thought about that so far. What because of the information from our country office is always open. In that sense, I haven't faced this. I guess it might not be possible to collect the data if the user has blocked only to certain specific users. I guess that's what is happening, for example, with a lot of the information in Facebook. So that's why the Facebook functionality is not that powerful as the Twitter one.
And a comment and question from Janine. Janine, also from Jeff, says it seems to be more intuitive to use than NVIVO itself. And then she asks, so one tweet becomes one case?
So yes, Janine, yeah. I actually found it quite easy to move around this, and in this case exactly, it is probably more intuitive and easy to find what you want to do with this data set, as it is that well structured and uploaded when you're using Encapture. Yes, and on your second question, yes, you can actually, well, rather than a tweet become a case, you can use the wizard to process. We will need more time to show that, but you can use the wizard to process the whole data set, and then you can start establishing what do you want as cases. You can establish the username as cases in order to do analysis on type of the message and the content in the message of each of the users. You can actually establish the hashtags as the cases if you want to use the hashtag as your unit of analysis to explore the content. So you have multiple possibilities. Basically, what the NVIVO does is it uses the data set and you can process it the same way as, for example, if you are importing a data set from a survey. And so the wizard allows you to establish the different type of cases and the different type of also the codes. It can actually, and attributes. Actually, if some of the elements you want to establish as attributes, for example, the number of followers, something that is quite more set, in order to then filter by those attributes. All that you can do it with the wizard very easily. It helps you all the process to identify what you want to establish as cases or as codes.
Many thanks, Eduardo. Do we have any more questions? Any more questions before we wrap up? We have lots of thank yous to Eduardo. Nuri and Valentina, have you used this functionality with NVIVO?
No, we haven't. We don't have this kind of analysis. We haven't done it. So, but we are in touch with our communication division and maybe we will use it. Over.
Great, thanks, Valentina.
It is not, sorry, Heather. No, it's just to point out that it is true that it's not new. I realize that it is not new. It's been around for a while, but not that many people knows about this encapture functionality. So, well, at least it's good to know that it is there.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Eduardo. I think that was probably, it was new for me anyway, so maybe new for a few others as well. I would like to really thank Valentina and Nuri and Eduardo for putting together these presentations and taking the time to be with all of us here today and sharing their experiences. I hope it's encouraged those of you that may have been struggling a bit with NVIVO or motivated those of you who are still trying to decide if your office should try it out. And we're also hoping that maybe this discussion could lead to something further. So we'd like to reiterate our last poll question about, is there interest in creating a new UNEG working group on these new technologies and innovations and evaluation? Thomas, can you pop up the poll question for us again? We'd just like to gauge the interest here.
Yeah, let's hope to obtain better results after this session than before.
Maybe no one wants to say no, but we've got already 15, 16 yeses. There's definitely interest. Janine can't see the poll. It should be showing up on your screen. So we definitely have some interest. Polling is sort of tapering off here. We've got 19 yeses and 2 maybes. Other people are maybe a little shy, or they're not sure yet, or they've already signed off. Let's see. We have a comment here. It will be very useful to have a UNEG group exploring this topic and providing some recommendations to all of us. I certainly agree with that idea. Sorry, Janine, I don't know why the poll isn't showing up. You can just answer, okay, definitely interested, great. I mean, this is not your only opportunity to express interest. We'll be communicating through UNEG. So if there are no more questions, I'd like to wrap up this session. Thank all of you for participating, for joining us today. Again, a big thank you to our 3 presenters. And Thomas will be posting a link to the Survey Monkey. It's in the chat here. It would be great if you could respond to the survey. This really helps those of us who organize this session, but as well as the wider EPE organizing group to help organize future events. So once again, thank you all very much and have a wonderful rest of the day wherever you are.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.